Just checking audio live stream, thanks.
Hopefully that's the most exciting thing that happens this evening.
Mr. Green, it's not a party until something gets broken.
I do.
Mr. Reddick, you're the engineer. The engineer's just gonna sit there and laugh at it. He's not gonna help. How you doing?
All right, enough of the shenanigans here, everyone. Come on. Welcome, everybody, to our regular council meeting for July 27th, 2026. To call the meeting to order, I just want to acknowledge that we gather on the traditional territories of the Coast and Strait Salish peoples, and specifically we recognize the Lekwungen-speaking people known today as the Songhees and the Kasapsum or Esquimalt nations, and how their connections to these lands and adjoining waters continue to this day. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda. Can I have a moved, seconded? Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed. We have two adoption of minutes from the regular council meetings on July 13th. Same mover and seconder. Any changes, corrections, or amendments to the minutes? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. And then just a motion to receive the Heritage Commission minutes, June 3rd. Move seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? We have no rise in report. My mayor's remarks will be brief. I just want to acknowledge the very rare rain cancellation that we had with the music in the park. That's the first time in my experience that that's happened. I just want to thank the staff and participants who did set up and tear down the stage with anticipation of a break in the weather that never happened. But it is still continuing this summer, so make sure you get out to see those. I was able to attend on July 21st, a change of command. So this is the CFB Esquimalt. So Kevin Whiteside took down his pennant, and Captain Navy Doug Layton has taken over as base commander. It seems a bit remote from Oak Bay, but they were actually very engaged with municipalities across the region, both in housing as well as many other initiatives. In fact, the base commander often joins. We have a semi-regular lunch meeting with the mayors in the region, and he often joins us as for some of the common issues. So Mr. Captain Whiteside has done a great job. We're looking forward to working with the new Captain Layton. I also just wanted a little reminder that School District 61 is changing their electoral system to a ward system, which means that this year will be the first year that Oak Bay elects a Oak Bay specific representative on the school board. So just wanted to make that, raising it here just for public awareness. If people are interested in representing the interests of Oak Bay at the School District 61 table, it is an election process. You would have to put your name forward, and I'm just encouraging people to consider that. Also, not directly in Oak Bay, although you can watch it partially from Oak Bay, the official viewing site of the Snowbirds is happening on August 4th at 5 p.m. at Clover Point, with this very strict warning that there's very, very, very little parking. So if you want to go walk or ride your way down there, again, August 4th at 5 p.m. And finally, just a reminder that we do have many activities, including music in the park, but also yoga in the park, open air piano concerts, and of course, one more night market in August and one in September coming up. So council takes a bit of a breather over August. We don't have any scheduled meetings, so we sometimes have to have special meetings, but typically we don't. So I just want to thank staff and council for all their work so far this year, and wish everybody some relaxation and renewal over the next month. I know obviously staff and even council are continuing to work through the month. That concludes my comments. We now go to section 7, which is public comment and question period. And an opportunity for people to address council. This is on items not on the agenda, but of general interest to the community. An opportunity to make comments or ask questions of council. And we did have a member of the public actually send us a picture ahead of time and wanted to speak, so we have the picture. And that is Mr. Taddy, who I see has raised his hand online. So why don't I start there? And Mr. Taddy, you can demonstrate the process, which is to state your full name and your municipality of residence, not your address, just your municipality. Welcome.
Tim Taddy, Oak Bay.
Welcome,
Can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to staff. I got this picture to them late this afternoon, and I was very appreciative of their quick response to get it to you. I'll be very, very brief. I always appreciate these opportunities, Mr. Mayor. I was struck at one of the recent council meetings when a gentleman raised the issue of beach access with regard to the marina lease, for taking his kayak and canoes and whatnot on wheels and walking down the street and putting them on. And it reminded me of something that's been in the back of my mind, and it may involve a couple of departments, so I thought I'd go through you. This is the foot of Bowker, and I would just draw your attention to several quick things. The passageway where walkers go, many of us have been there, has a telephone pole and another concrete abutment, and a concrete abutment with Chris Hidley's very good signs that they put so much effort into. And then as you go, there's a chain and the garbage can, and then a stack of signs, the top of which is ruined and vandalized, and it's just a hodgepodge of signs. So my proposal, again, this is related to access, and there's obviously the blue multi-mat, which is excellent. So my quick proposal is for staff or council, however this works, to look at making some very inexpensive changes that would make accessibility easier for everybody. So the first thing I would propose is please note that the sign to the left, pointing to the left, has no parking. And that is, I think, because of the chain, I think that must be because of picking up garbage. To the right, parking is midnight to 6 a.m. So what I propose, if you go back to the walkway, the chains have been up year round usually, but whether it's been vandalized or whether one's been taken down, they've been up across. Cars are parked hodgepodge there all the time. This one was taken without cars. And the only option if one is trying to get through to the blue mat is to go through the walkway and across the sand, of course, but there's the telephone pole. And it's equally hard for old people like me with kayaks and canoes to wheel down through there. You can't actually bend the kayak. So my proposal would be pretty simple, that you take advantage of the opportunity to clean up the signage, keep them all, they're all very important, but somehow clean them up. Make the no parking sign clear to the left and take down that chain so that people like that can't lift their kayak can take it down whether the blue mat's there or not, because the blue mat's seasonal, but I'm proposing the access for wheeling in where there's no parking to be year round. And then to the right, I'm proposing that you make that handicap parking. There's plenty of space. So that in fact, the garbage truck would still be able to get his garbage because that's where people like me would take our kayaks through on wheels. Walkers would not be impeded, and we would be introducing a handicap parking spot so that when people do want to take advantage of the blue mat, they don't have to do an awkward twirly around to get to it or come down from up higher on Willows Beach where the parking lot is. And so that's essentially it. I appreciate you listening to me. I know you can't respond, but if you can move that forward, if you think it makes sense, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taddy. And we do have our Director of Engineering in the hall here, and I think I'll leave that as a bit of a conduit to staff for consideration of those pieces. So, and yeah, generally speaking, a lot of the great ideas in our community do come from the community as people walk about and see these kind of things. So always appreciate people raising them. You don't have to come to the council. You're certainly welcome to. You can often just send a note in to staff. You can CC Oak Bay Council on these things, but generally they're the ones who go do an assessment and see if it makes sense. So appreciate you raising it. So have a good evening. Next on our speaking agenda, I have here, is anybody in the room who wishes to speak? I'll invite the person in the room come forward.
Sorry, Mayor, do I stand or?
Come up to the chair.
Thank you.
And what we'll have you do is, again, you can demonstrate for those in the room. If anybody else wishes to speak, have a seat. You can push the button in the middle and just state your name, municipality of residence. Then you have up to 3 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is David King, and I'm here this evening with my wife and neighbors. We reside on Hampshire. I would like to address a bit about the property at 1538 Monterey that is owned by the municipality and is going to be subject to a temporary use permit application this evening. The property was purchased, I live very, pardon me?
We'll actually have an opportunity to speak to that when it's on the agenda.
Would I be able to just put this comment forward or?
Sure, I guess.
Sure, okay, thanks. I live very adjacent to the property. The property was purchased in Oak Bay in 2016 and has been allowed to fall into disrepair. If you visit the old house this evening, the yard's unkempt, the building's run down, windows are open, as they have been for months, and resulting, as I understand, in pest and rodent issues. The site is also used as overflow parking and smoking hole for local businesses and people in the area. And the fences are falling down. The site is actually covered in cigarette butts and garbage. Recently, the house has been used as a training facility for the Oak Bay Fire Department. When this first happened, I was alarmed to see smoke billowing from the windows and firemen on the site in full protective gear. It turns out there was no fire, but the house was being used for training using simulated smoke and houses being dragged through the house. I recognize the requirement for training, and I really do appreciate our local fire department. I do have questions about the property and the TUP. Oak Bay is already using it as an immersive training facility without putting the appropriate TUP in place beforehand. What I would ask today is that we, as the neighbors, be consulted on this. I understand that the first thing I saw was a flyer come to my door on the TUP, and I had seen no consultation before that. I see that a lot of the things that are being asked for in the TUP are already being done on the property. I have had conversations with the municipality about other things such as parking in Theatre Lane, which have been an issue. I've had some responses, but no thorough responses back. So I think this property has been treated somewhat poorly. And what I would ask is that Oak Bay act as good neighbors. And really what I would ask is that they consult us before any of the TUPs and other actions go forward. I'm not against development on the site or in any other location, but I would love to be involved in the process. So thanks, Mayor. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I move to Eric Zelka online. Mr. Zelka, you have your hand raised online?
Yes, can you hear me all right? How's that sound?
We can, yes. Thank you.
Wonderful. Hello, my name is Eric Zelka, living in northern part of Oak Bay proper. And I just wanted to follow up on an additional item, riffing off of Tim Taddy's suggestion from a few moments ago. That area that has the wonderful mat that heads down right down to the water for the accessibility aspect. That area, especially if the chain is going to be adjusted, it really needs two additional items. Every time I go down there, especially when I'm leaving the beach, it would be wonderful to have an opportunity to wash my feet, like I do at almost every other beach in the district. Plus, down at Willows Beach, you know, there is a way to wash your feet in the water fountains. Unfortunately, I don't want to do it in the water fountain, but I don't know where else to do it. But a foot wash would be fantastic. It's something that could also be, you know, nice for the dogs as well. Maybe not combined, and ideally a washroom, because I do notice that for those who have a need, there's a certain smell in that area. And for those of you who visit the bushes nearby, especially the house that lives right next door to that, I'm sure everyone would appreciate a washroom right there, since unfortunately nature calls. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zelka. I do think those are probably slightly more complicated implementations than some of the other signage pieces, but we can certainly have a look at that as well as consideration for future projects. Anybody else in the room wish to speak to council? Again, it's intended for items not on the agenda. Okay, I don't see any other hands raised either online or in person. So with that, we will conclude this portion of the agenda and move on to the next piece, which is recommendations from the meeting held on July 20th. We had one recommendation that came out of that council directs staff to engage with the community green map and report back on the organization's proposed partnership model. So can I have someone move that recommendation? Moved. Thank you. Seconded. Discussed it at that meeting, but if there's any further discussion, happy to take some now. Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you. Not everything's going to be this quick. But we now move to item 9.1, which is preliminary performance measures and council sign-off. We have Mr. Bowl here, our Director of Community Building and Planning. This was a fairly lengthy discussion at the Committee of the Whole, and there's been some additions based on that conversation coming back to this table. So over to you, Mr. Bowl.
Thank you, Mayor. Just pulling up my notes. So today's report follows up on the broader discussion that Council had last week, and it responds directly to Council's direction from April to return with preliminary performance measures and KPIs, and also seeking final sign-off on Part 2 of the project. And optimizing development processes has been a key component of the Housing Action Program and is intended to prepare the district for increasing development activity, new provincial housing requirements, and anticipated growth under the updated OCP. Part 2 of the project builds on the assessment completed in Part 1 last year which included process reviews, municipal benchmarking, industry consultation, and the identification of opportunities to improve development and building permit processes. The report before Council today is about ensuring that we not only implement process improvements, but also establish clear ways to measure whether those improvements are delivering better outcomes for applicants, staff, council, and the community. A total of 11 initiatives are proposed that are intended to improve the entire applicant journey, from initial inquiries and pre-application discussions through to development approvals and building permitting and construction, rather than focusing on a single part of the process. Ms. Cook will continue the introduction with a couple of additional details regarding the proposed performance measures. Thanks.
Thank you and welcome, Ms. Cook.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you'll see in the report, staff undertook an updated outcomes impact assessment to analyze the cost benefit of each initiative. This included assessing each initiative by the level of effort required, the anticipated outcomes, and then rating the level of impact from high to low. This assessment indicated that some initiatives are anticipated to have a higher level of impact than others, but that the proposed initiatives are anticipated to generally have a high level of impact on the targeted outcome or beneficiary. Following the updated outcomes impact assessment, staff identified preliminary performance indicators to provide a framework to measure the success of the initiatives. This includes quantitative and qualitative key performance indicators as appropriate for a particular initiative, including timeframe KPIs, i.e. achieving an output of a particular initiative on time and within budget, customer and staff surveys to measure qualitative impacts, and quantitative data on improved process timeframes for development approvals and building permitting. Staff anticipate that further KPIs will be identified after each initiative is launched and more detailed scoping specific to the initiative is undertaken. KPIs will be used to provide updates to Council on the success of the initiatives and the project as a whole. Considered altogether, staff anticipate that the 11 initiatives will systematically improve the development and building application processes end to end. Therefore, all 11 initiatives are recommended for inclusion in CPP 78. Staff are seeking today for sign-off from Council on CPP 78, after which we will begin the process of procuring external support and launching the project. We're happy to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for that. Are there questions from members of council to staff? Go ahead, Ed Watson and then Green.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks, Mayor, for allowing me to raise something. And this is very high level to staff, and it was something that really just came to me today when I was rereading this package and thinking about the overall process and how the public perceives the service level. And it was about the relationship between public works permits and planning permits, and the extent to which there is coordination around that. And, well, I guess maybe I'll just think about my issue here. For certain projects, I assume, like larger ones, people need both planning and development permits, and they also need engineering and public works permits because they've got driveway widening, they may have sewer or water upgrades they need to do. And I wonder to what extent that those processes would end up as a result of this being integrated and sort of managed to the same level or standards, so that somebody who's got one of those bigger projects, these improvements around planning and building also spill over to the other things that they have to do to get their project through the pipeline. So I just, a comment about that. I'm not expecting anything more than just a reflection on that.
Sure. Mr. Bull?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Through you. There's a number of related permits that might come up during either development applications, which are the planning stage, or building permits in preparation of construction. So usually those are coordinated because the development application has been made and some preliminary comments are made, and some requirements will be identified at that time. And for building permits, it's more practical. For tree permits, for example, tree protection fencing needs to be identified and installed. And for any servicing needs, the Engineering and Public Works Department identifies the requirements. And so that usually makes sure that all these things are coordinated. The timing might be sometimes different, But when we did the review last year, the focus was very much on the development application process and the building permit process, not so much on the other permit processes. We had definitely input from those groups as well. Wasn't coming up as a major issue at that point in time. So I think the improvements that we have here do have some relation to those other kind of permits as well, because in the case of simplification, for example, for building permits, there may be options where a little bit of time can be gained if there's either less or no involvement from other teams, so there's less people involved with a certain permit. But so that's kind of the general answer I can give, or reflection, I guess. Thanks.
And if I could just follow up, so there's one of the projects, and it's a large one, is about applicant resources, and I just wondered if in the scope of that project, applicant resources, will applicants be pointed to these other things as part of that pre-screening? All the things for this project I might have to do, so that if they point to parks, you mentioned for parks, tree permits and other kinds of permits, that in effect becomes part of this project, even though it relates to departments outside your own.
Ms. Cook?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mayor. I would say definitely yes. When we think about the applicant resources, it will be anything that we consider is important to the applicant as part of their permitting process. So I think we'd be looking at applicant resources related to working with parks, working with engineering, and working with fire, as those are all interrelated with our building permitting as well as our development approvals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Councillor Green?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the report through you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions on the report. One is around the demolition permits and waste management. I just wanted to ask, first of all, expediting demolitions, wondered what the rationale was behind that, and then secondly, on the waste management side of the demolition waste. And I'm asking the question only because I know many Oak Bay residents are concerned about demolitions and older housing stock, so that was the purpose of the question. And my other question is, what is meant by right-sized? And that's just my own question. I wasn't clear how that was being used and the context for that. Thank you.
Mr. Bull?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor. For demolition permits, there's a couple of steps that need to be followed. It's one of the types of permits we'd like to look at. It's not specifically on the radar to be faster or slower. Right now, it's just one type of permit. We have some OSP policies that in the future we might look at dealing differently with construction waste, but right now we don't have specific requirements for demolition permits, besides if they are designated or registered property. In certain cases it does come to council first, but in most cases it won't. Then with regards to what right sizing means, it's contrasted with the current approach, particularly for building permits, where every permit, most building permits, as you're saying, this doesn't apply typically to plumbing permits, but building permits are treated first in, first out, so everybody gets their turn. But everybody, regardless of the size of their project, a small kitchen reno or a whole new house or a complicated renovation perhaps, all goes in the same queue. And that is a one-size-fits-all. That's not very efficient for the smaller scope projects. So right-sizing it about, is there other ways and pathways or a route for a quicker approval for something that is small, and also less eyes. That already happens, I think. The smaller projects don't have as many reviewers, of course, but to try to create a separate, shorter route for those projects that don't need that much time or review effort, that's what we try to convey with the term right-sizing. Thanks.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up through you on demolition. I think there was at one time, I don't know if it was a policy, but it was a suggestion to deconstruct as opposed to demolish. Could you tell me where that approach is at this moment in Oak Bay? Thank you.
Mr. Bull?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, through you. Sometimes it already happens, but what Council has considered a while ago was a project options analysis for a deconstruction bylaw. I think that is currently still on the long list of projects, future potential projects that might be picked up in the future. So that's the current status of that particular topic. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will note there is CRD is working on a model bylaw based on the City of Victoria's bylaw that they will be sharing with other municipalities. And just procedurally here, I have one more person on our council list of questions. Procedurally, if anybody wishes to speak to this item, after council asks questions, this is true for all things with public input. Council asks questions, then we will go to the public for any comments and questions. Then we'll come back to this table. Council may have more questions, or they may give direction, and we'll speak to motions to give some things forward. So that's the process for all of these. So at this point, I'll come back to this table for questions. Councillor Braithwaite and then Patterson.
Thanks so much, Mayor. And just a little bit on the technology. I'm just wondering if the new digital tools that we're going to be using are compatible with our existing software, and if there's going to be any ongoing licensing or maintenance costs that are going to remain after the grant funding ends that we'll have to take on.
Mr. Bohl.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Not for e-apply in my district. Those are specifically tools that connect to a wider Tempest system that the district already uses. And it's simply building out our toolbox, so to say, and using more of the bells and whistles that program allows for. So I don't anticipate increased cost there, except for what will happen through this project, making sure it's all set up and works properly. That is something that we can mostly do with in-house expertise, but we do need from time to time some support from basically the provider of that software to make sure all the things connect as they should. Thanks.
Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through you to staff. In the Initiative 10, Performance Measures and Monitoring, it's recommended that we utilize the services of a consultant to help develop those performance measures. And I just wonder if staff could speak to, is there a standardization or a tailorization for these? Because I imagine some of the performance indicators are kind of tailored for each community, in that big communities might have a different way of processing things than the smaller communities. And there will be certain things that both developers or permit applicants or the general public consider important here with this process. So I'm wondering how, if it's a hybrid, if it's something they take from generalized benchmarks that other municipalities would use, and also if what will be captured with this reporting is not only what is recommended, but what items may have been examined and considered perhaps too resource intensive, so that they're not chosen as a performance indicator. So just a bit of the background on what we would be seeing as a council.
Sure, I'll give it to Ms. Cook.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So I'd say that for the one big piece of that question, so they'll definitely be tailored to Oak Bay. So as part of part one, we already have done some municipal benchmarking, but as we move into that initiative, we'll definitely look at, what other municipalities in the region do in terms of key performance indicators and performance measures, and we'll tailor it to what's important to Oak Bay. In terms of the use of a consultant, I would say that in terms of determining the performance measures, we already do some performance measuring within planning and building permitting. The use of the consultant won't be, I'd say, more focused on what those KPIs will be, but more setting up the tools and the software to establish that. And I'm not actually, I might have to ask you to repeat the last part of that question, if you don't mind, Councillor Patterson. Thanks.
I think that captured it, but no, something else, Councillor Patterson?
Yes, and the last part was just, whenever you go through these examinations, part of it is you can get all kinds of data in a report, but sometimes it's resource intensive, so that it's hard to justify actually including that. So I'm wondering if, when we get this, there will also be just some highlighting of things that were considered and then were decided, the decision was to not include them because of them being resource intensive.
I think that's more of a
Thank you,
comment.
through you, Mayor. Is that specific to the initiatives or the measuring of performance measures within that initiative?
It's really, I think, through you, Mayor, it's really about the performance reporting and the data that's gathered, because some data it's so resource intensive that we can't justify it reasonably.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, I think that we'll definitely focus our performance measures on data that we think is important to the district and that we would think would be important to our senior leadership team and to council. I think that what we're looking to do is set up a tool that makes measuring performance actually quite simple. So we'll be putting in the effort to set up something that's going to help support our housing target order reporting by, so we already have the data in Tempest, and it's going to be kind of produced into a dashboard that's actually going to make it a lot easier for us to report on our performance. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess my questions here are, probably more comments than questions. Yeah, I'll leave my questions at this point and come back to it. So, is there any members of the public? I don't have anybody with their hands raised online at this point, but I would certainly, if you wish to speak, I do have one. Anybody in the room here who would like to speak to this is item 9.1, performance measures? Okay, I'll go to Mr. Zelka online, related to item 9.1.
Hello, can you hear me?
Please go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you, Mr. Zelka. Please go
Can you
ahead.
hear me? Thank you very much. Okay, hello, Eric Zelka again, the north part of Oak Bay. Regarding this item on the agenda, yes, this is near and dear to my heart. First of all, I do note that when I look up on the British Columbia digital building permit website, if I put my address in there, I'm informed that Oak Bay does not participate in this digital program. Check with local government to learn how to apply. Okay, so I'm hoping that that $200,000 that was received by Oak Bay will not go to consultants, but will somehow allow Tempest or whatever it is to connect to this system, since there's quite a number of benefits to be able to offload some of this work to the province, since they're offering it anyway. Number two is, now that we've got this situation where a homeowner who would normally go to apply for a single residence and is treated as a home residential owner for what's referred to as small projects, and obviously is treated that way. Now this residential owner who's wanting to expand can now put up 3, 4, 5, 6 units on their single family home property. They're now being treated by Oak Bay staff as full-fledged developers. The language is not appropriate. The assistance for the 2 or 3 situations that I'm aware of is not appropriate. The forms that come through is just gobbledygook to a homeowner who's used to putting in a bathroom, and now just wants to put in 2 additional units for their grown-up kids to live with them, and they're being treated like a developer. So when you talk about all these wonderful buzzwords I see in the report, great buzzwords, make sense to council, make sense to development staff, makes no sense to the residents of Oak Bay in general. So please, when you're talking about customer service, just realize you've got people out there who haven't a clue what you're talking about. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Zelka. Any other members of the public online or in person wishing to speak to this item? I don't see any other hands. We'll come back to this table. We have a recommendation here, and my understanding of this is really that the recommendation here is to approve. This will advance the projects, the 11 priority projects. It gives authority to go forth and do those projects, but that the specific measures and so forth will be coming back at a future time for final approval. There's some suggested KPIs and measures there, but they're not final. We're not approving those at this point. It's really approving the projects at this point. Is that accurate?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. That's correct. A number of the initiatives do require council input, particularly for bylaws, but also particularly the ones for performance measures and right sizing of processes. Those will definitely come back to council, and some of the other more less complicated or not really needing further direction, they will simply be implemented as we go by. But we'll definitely keep council posted of what the progress is on this program. Thanks.
Okay. At this point, we haven't defined the reporting back, correct? Like the reporting back on the status of the projects or the KPIs. Like, are they going to be annual, semi-annual? We haven't determined any of that at this point. Is that correct?
Yes, Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. Very good.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Yeah, I just have a couple of comments here. One, thank you. I mean, I think these are all incredibly important projects and good to see them moving forward. I do think that there's probably benefit for us to kind of have the outcome metrics come back to this table for sign off at some point in the future. And probably also the, excuse me for my voice is just coming in and out for some reason the last couple of weeks. The timeline for the status reporting and so forth should probably also, we should figure that out at some point, not in the immediate future, but I think as we develop those KPIs. And so I'm just going to turn to staff because I had a thought of perhaps just amending seeing the motion amended, just to be clear that the target outcome metrics, that they do come back to council for sign off and that the reporting timelines come back as well. Is that something that staff would see as reasonable?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Definitely the targets and the performance measures, progress reporting, other council priority projects we usually report on semi-annually for the updates that we provide for all projects. So that would be our intent. But if there's something different that council would like to see for this particular project, definitely open to hear that. Thanks.
I see Ms. Hunt reaching for the microphones. I'll turn to her.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to clarify, when you speak about status reporting, are you meaning in terms of the implementation of the various initiatives, or status reporting once we have those outcome metrics that we would be reporting back to council on an annual basis with a measure of, the metrics against the targets? So just to clarify that, please.
Yeah, I think probably the important piece from a governance level I would see being more the our attainment of the KPIs once we've signed off on those. At a high level here, my hope is that, and this is sort of a bit of maybe a cultural shift, but ideally we're not as a council getting so far into the weeds on the individual projects. It's helpful to have the information, but at the end of the day, we're here to essentially set the goals and staff to come back with projects that can achieve those. And hopefully, if we're setting, the outcomes, the desired outcomes, then, if we all agree on that, both staff and council, then that should shape decision-making. So as you're working on the projects and you have to prioritize to say, okay, well, we've all agreed that these are the priorities and here's the outcomes. And if there's things that staff, need to come back and check in for council to get approval on, then that's clear, right? So the intention here is to kind of get us back to the KPI piece. And I think that's the primary piece. The status of the individual projects, I think, is less important than it is the status of the outcomes. They're obviously driven by the status of the outcome of the individual projects. Does that, Ms. Hunt?
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. That helps. And what I may suggest is that we introduced a trimester reporting progress report just recently, which primarily included financial and HR indicators. We can build on that trimester reporting to include, community building and planning indicators. We could do an annual performance report. I think, there are avenues where we're already reporting to council in terms of KPIs, and we can add to that. The annual report is another one. So I think if you let us take that away, we'll make sure that, we figure out the reporting back process on that. In terms of determining what those targets are, I think what Mr. Bull mentioned is that as we work through sort of the bylaw changes, that we will become to council and talk about those bylaw changes, and there will be choices for council in terms of how they relate to the outcomes. And so at that point, we'll be having more of a discussion around those outcomes that council wants to see, because if we make a bylaw amendment in one way, there might be a certain outcome or target associated with that. But if we do it in a different way, there would be a different target or outcome associated with that. And so I think those discussions will come as part of the process in terms of for finalizing the initiative. So I'll let Mr. Bull add on if he has anything further.
Okay, thank you. So just for my clarification, and I'll get to the main motion here in a second, just because we haven't yet defined those KPIs, and they will drive the decision-making that goes forward, when I guess my question here is either, can we be clear about when those KPIs will come back to council for sign-off, or is it something that we should just put in as an amendment to the motion that those will come back to council, so that there's actually on the record that they're coming back for council? Sorry, thank you, Ms. Cook.
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, the Initiative 10 performance measures and monitoring has kind of two phases in which we're planning on rolling it out. So there's kind of that, sorry, just let me go back to the program. So the first phase, so Q3 2026, so I'd say about October of this year, we will have established some KPIs and performance measures that we'll then use to measure the success of the initiative. And I think that it'll be a bit of an ongoing process because, as I mentioned before, when we get into the more detailed scoping of each initiative, we'll be developing kind of further KPIs to measure that specific initiative. So I think we can report back on performance measures when we first establish them in Q3 2026, but I do think potentially through that trimester report that we could update on KPIs specific to each initiative, if that's something that council would like to hear from us. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Bull?
Maybe to add, specifically for building permits, for example, because that's worked on starting later this year and next year in the first quarters. Anticipate we would, as part of that initiative, come back to you about how those processes can be changed, and that will also directly relate to number 10, performance measures. So I see that with those two initiatives coming together there, and we'll come back to you with options and specifics at that point in time. So you get to direct specifically for building permits at that time, and then at other times, other topics may come up that require your input. Thanks.
Okay, so just for my clarification, there's not a specific, in October, we expect some of the KPIs to be coming back and presented to council. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that the sort of, well, October's a terrible time because it'll be right in the middle of an election. Probably early in the new year.
Yeah, Your Worship, I think, let us take it away. I understand exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for council to set the targets in terms of those broader outcomes. And we will make sure that we return to council to have that discussion as we work through this project later this year, as we look at the individual KPIs. It sort of goes to Councillor Patterson's. I don't want to get mired down in a whole variety of different KPIs. And I think what you're looking at are those top level ones in terms of outcomes. And we will make sure we will come back to council once we've got into this to have that discussion with you.
Okay. Is there any benefit in amending the motion to sort of be clear about that? Okay, I'll leave that to turn to council if they feel that's important to have that language in there, but otherwise it's just a general understanding that will come back for council consideration. Councillor Green?
I think that it's my understanding that staff, both planning staff and senior staff, have an understanding of what you were talking about. I'm not sure we need an amendment per se, but...
No, that's fine. I tend to agree. Sometimes it's beneficial to have clarity, but it's not always required. So I'll leave my comments there, and thank you to staff for the work that's been going on this. So right now we have a motion on the floor, which is the staff recommendation. I don't see any other discussions. We'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries. And good luck with all the projects. Move to section 10. These are also both available for public input. The first one up is item 10.1, 2088 Hampshire Lane. This is a request for a development variance permit. And I will hand this over to Ms. Claver. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report and application pertains to an application for a development variance permit, as you just mentioned, to specifically increase the lot coverage and also reduce the setback requirement of 3 meters between buildings and structures to permit the construction of pergola on an existing patio of a relatively newly developed residential lot. The property owners and applicant are actually here today if you have any questions later, but essentially they're asking for this permit for a custom design pergola to better enjoy their rear yard and also just for protection from the sun for health purposes. So design plans are attached as attachment 5, which also the rationale behind the intentionality of the project is in attachment 6. So as I mentioned before, the variance triggers 2 requirements. So the increase of lot coverage as well as the reduction of siting between, or the spatial separation of 3 meters between buildings and structures, so that it can be positioned in a specific place that makes sense on the existing patio. Ultimately, they've consulted neighbors, they have strata approval to proceed, and staff recommend approval of the development variance permit. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the overview. Are there any questions from members of council to the applicant or to staff? Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks very much. My question would be to staff. I'm just wondering if the reduced separation would create any fire separation or building code concerns, or will those have been addressed through the building permit process? Thank you.
Yeah, great question. The 3 meter setback historically was developed decades and decades ago for that very reason, to ensure that if a fire occurs that it doesn't spread. Ultimately, because of the nature of the opening of the pergola, yes, it goes through a building permitting process. The building officials will evaluate this, but ultimately the nature of the pre-existing patio, what's there, staff have already kind of evaluated that there wouldn't be that that hazard, but it still has to go through the building permit process.
Thank you, Mayor. And just one other question, and this is probably for the applicant, and I'm just wondering if the pergola is intended to remain open, or is there a future intention to enclose it at all?
I'm going to ask the applicant and property owners to come to the stage, or to the podium, I should say.
Just come to the desk here.
You can actually go and sit right there. No, it's okay. No, that's okay.
So you probably heard the process. Just state your name and municipality, and you can answer the question about the inclusion.
I'm new to Oak Bay, so I'm going to say Oak Bay. And my name is Kevin Flanagan, and the intent is to remain open. It will be a slanted pergola so that it kind of gives you some protection from the sun.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Not seeing any. We then open this floor up to members of the public who wish to address any of the issues related to this variance. Again, this is for 2088 Hampshire. I did lower a hand that was online earlier, so I'm not sure if the speaker, I think it was just a legacy hand remaining from an earlier request. So is any members of the public, either in person, looking around, not seeing any, or online? Don't see any public input.
Staff recommendation.
Second.
Seconded, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? You're approved. Good luck with the project. Enjoy the pergola. Hope we get some sun that you can actually use it. Item number 10.2, which is 1538 Monterey Avenue. This is the temporary use permit. 41538 Monterey Avenue. We have Mr. Green here, our Deputy Director of Community Building and Planning, to introduce the item. Same process will take place. There'll be staff introduction, questions from council, and then opportunity for public input. So you can come back and speak again if you wish. Please go ahead, Mr. Green.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The district has received a temporary use permit application for the property at 1538 Monterey Avenue. The applicant is the district's facilities department, who has submitted a temporary use permit in order to allow the use of the property to be used for temporary municipal office storage space, and staff training facilities for the Oak Bay Police Department and the Oak Bay Fire Department for a period of 3 years. Staff have reviewed the proposal in context with the site and surrounding area, and based on this review, staff believe the TUP is supportable. In accordance with the legislation and in accordance with Council's Development Application Procedure Bylaw, staff did give notification, so a development notification letter was sent to all properties within 50 metres, as well as an advert placed in the Oak Bay News on 2 separate occasions. The applicant is also here to answer any questions that Council may have on the application, and planning staff are also happy to answer any questions that Council have on the technical merits of the application.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. By the applicant is Mr. Graham. Is that the Green? Welcome. Just to see you. I have Councillor Patterson, then Councillor Green, and then Councillor Braithwaite.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through you to staff. Just to follow up on, Mr. King did speak about this earlier on, but his comments are certainly echoed by many of the residents that are particularly on Monterey. And so as part of this temporary use permit and the uses we're planning for this, what are the plans to provide more, particularly cleanup and maintenance of the green space around the building proper?
Mr. Graham?
Through your worship, currently we maintain the property to just a minimum standard in alignment with our budget restraints, and Parks generally cleans it and cuts the lawns twice a year. So currently it wasn't our intent to change that.
I have Councillor Green and then Braithwaite.
Thank you, and through you to staff, thank you very much for the report. Just wondered, following on Councillor Patterson's comments, just wondering what, if any, planned consultation there will be with immediate neighbours that obviously have concerns about the property. I think the end result will address many of their concerns as it becomes utilized and maintained, but is there any plan to at least talk with them and just get a really good understanding of what is concerning to them? Thank you.
I guess from planning staff's perspective, obviously we have complied with the legislation in terms of sending a notification letter out to everybody within 50 metres, as well as placed an advert in the paper. And obviously this is the opportunity for the public to have their say on the application. Obviously, if the applicant or if council wants the applicant to do further consultation, and that's the will of council, then that could also be an opportunity that you could add a condition to the temporary use permit, or either as a pre-issuance condition or before council considers that application for the applicant to host some kind of information session with the immediate neighbours is also an opportunity for that. Could be if council so chooses.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Councillor Braithwaite and Appleton.
Thanks so much. And mine were around some of the neighborhood impacts as well, and questions around like, how often will the fire department training occur, the police training occur? Is it in evenings, weekends, overnight? Will there be sirens, smoke machines? I think we've heard that there are smoke machines, simulated emergencies. Those kind of all came up when I was reading the report. Where will the trainees park? Will there be any impact on the neighborhood parking? And how will the neighbors know when the training is going to occur? So those are some of the questions I have.
Over to you, Mr. Graham.
Thank you, through your worship. If I missed any of the questions, just there was a list there. Signage is placed out in front of the building whenever there's training. Training, I won't say will happen daily, but based on the training requirements we have under the provincial legislation, it could be that often. It is done during the day, not in the evening, so it would meet with our all of our noise bylaws and those sort of things. Generally, we do, I won't say occasionally, quite regularly use an actual smoke machine. The other opportunity with the fires, they'll use full blackout face masks, but the intention is to create as realistic conditions as possible. We typically leave the windows open for a few hours afterwards to allow the smoke to come out. And it's just a standard smoke machine that you'd use on any film set type of a condition. Did I miss? Sorry.
Parking for the trainees that are there?
Oh, for parking, being that it's so close to the fire department, the police department, generally they just bring the apparatus over.
Thank you. And then the report also mentions plumbing upgrades and safety upgrades. And do we know what work is actually planned and what the cost of that might be?
Graham?
Through your worship, that building permit is actually related to our ongoing maintenance of the building. It's not related to the temporary use permit. We did some extra bracing on the back deck, for instance, just recently. I believe there's a toilet in there we're looking at replacing, but being that the building isn't in use, we're likely just going to shut that toilet off.
Thank you. And if I may, Mayor, and I noticed in the report it said that we're going from 2 lots to 1 lot for the TUP. I think it said somewhere in there that we have to make it into 1 lot. Is that correct?
Through your worship, to Councillor Braithwaite, from planning perspective, we are adding that as a condition to the TUP that consolidates the lot, given that I think there's an expectation that this lot be brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw rather than being a legal non-conforming use. And so planning staff have recommended that condition be added to that draft permit.
Thank you. And so then my question would be, after the 3 years, if the TUP has ended after the 3 years, will it then go back to the 2 lots, or will it stay as the 1 lot?
Mr. Graham?
For your worship, Councillor Braithwaite, in order then to create 2 lots, the applicant or the landowner would need to submit a subdivision application to subdivide a property into 2 lots, if that is what is the requirement. But at the end of that 3 years, there's an expectation that the site be remain as it was prior to commencement of the development, but there isn't the lot consolidation is a condition that the planning staff are recommending be undertaken.
Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Worship. So just expanding on the idea of just public information. So I heard that there was the proposal to put signage out to sort of inform people what was going on. And this may be more a question for the fire service rather than Mr. Graham, but is there any other, is the nature of the training and the timeline of the training consistent enough such that the fire service might be able to provide to local neighbors at least a rough idea of approximately the timing and the nature of what to expect as far as that? I think that might help neighbors a lot.
Mr. Graham?
Through your worship, I can't speak in detail because the fire chief isn't here, but generally the answer is yes, we're consistent of training short of being called out on actual emergencies. The training would be set regularly during the daytime.
Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. Less of a question, more just a comment. I think it would be, I guess, without being able to speak directly to fire services, I think that it would be useful if there was even some kind of circular bulletin or some type of regular posting on the district's website that local residents could consult to just sort of get a sense of when those things might be going on. So just make that notation for staff.
Before I go back to second time questions, are there any of the first time? I just have questions to follow up on the line of questioning already. There's what's proposed for us is a maintenance or continuation of the current maintenance model. There is a possibility that we could direct that maintenance level be increased with the thing. Thank you. The other question I had was just around parking there. That is because it's adjacent to the village, is a high use space. Does there's a comment made that the equipment would come over from the fire hall, but with that parking space, would that be impacted? Would that have to be reserved for chunks of the day for the fire department use, or would they be able to use their equipment around the corner or other places that doesn't use up parking in the village or adjacent to the village? Mr. Graham?
To your worship, the apparatus usually parks in the front of the building right on Monterey. There's a fire hydrant there, so there is a no parking section that they generally park on. From observing the test exercises that we've done there to see how well the apparatus fits, it will take up a couple of parking spots on Monterey Avenue. We don't generally bring the apparatus down Theatre Lane to park. The firefighters would carry ladders around to the back of the building and do practice evacuations, things like that.
Okay. So do we have a sense of what would be required then? Like if it's using up 2 parking spaces, would those parking spaces have to be reserved ahead of time? Because obviously people might be parking there on a regular basis and then the equipment couldn't park there if they needed the space.
To your worship, yes. They generally, the days that they're going to be training, they would put up signs really early in the morning to block those spots open.
Okay. And again, do we have a sense of the frequency of that training?
Worst case scenario would be daily. I think it would be fairly consistent that it would be almost daily.
Okay. And the other question I have was just in the uses here. I mean, there was temporary municipal office storage, and staff training for the police and fire departments. So is there any thought here that would actually, would this be used for municipal offices or office storage?
To your worship, we do store some spare furniture in there. Part of it is mock-ups for the fire department to maneuver through almost like a little bit of a maze. We do have it set up in case there is a flood or other emergency, just as part of business continuity for the district. If we had to, we could move people in there temporarily to do temporary repairs or something. But to date, we've never had to do that, and we're not really expecting to.
Okay, thank you for those answers. I have second-time speakers Braithwaite and Patterson.
Thanks, Mayor. Actually, you've kind of asked one of my questions, which was, because the report emphasizes the value of the site for the training, but it doesn't ever indicate how many days a month it'll be used or how long the exercises will typically last. But what I heard you say was that they're daily and they could go on all day. So, okay. If there's, it would be nice for the neighbors that they would have that, because then we can maybe assess the impact for them if they knew in advance exactly how many days the training was going to go on.
I think it's more of a comment than a question, so I'll, do you say anything, Mr. Graham?
Through your worship, training at, like I say, at worst could be daily. It's usually only a few hours is our intent. I can get you those exact details on the provincial standards for the number of hours of training they have to put in per week. But I'm like I say, I'm showing kind of worst case scenario. It could be every other day, but I do want to be clear. It could be every day for a few hours. Usually they try and take care of it in the morning, and the afternoons get a little busier for call-outs.
Councillor Patterson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and I will just comment because I have to maneuver through the area when the training is going on, and it is very close to the accessible parking in the village, so I think that's something that we, unfortunately, the fire chief is not here to speak to it tonight, but that's something we have to consider. I have also been caught a couple of times of there wasn't good direction for where pedestrians go, because you then might have to maneuver out into the street and walk around the fire truck until they get set up, because there's obstructions across the sidewalk. But also I've been caught in the circumstance of, I guess they had an alarm, and so everybody had to come running out of the house and get on the truck, and away they go, which if you're a pedestrian caught up in that, so I think logistically there needs to be some review of this, but also a question through you, Mayor, for Mr. Graham. I believed at some point in time you talked about removing the garage from the site, and if Mr. Graham could just refresh my memory on that.
Mr. Graham?
Through your worship, that was one proposal, I think it was in January, that we looked at if we did want to turn part of that site into parking. It was not something we were moving forward with at this time. We do find people, we have had garbage dumped off around that garage. As soon as we notice it, we clean it up. We've also put doors and secured that building much better than it was. So hopefully that happens a lot less often, but there's no intention of removing the garage at this point in time.
I don't see other questions from members of council, so if there's any members of the public who wish to speak to council, you're welcome to come forward. Same process as before, just state your name, municipality of residence.
Hi,
and,
again, David King. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't realize the procedure before, but I live actually immediately adjacent to the property. And our neighbors are here who are also adjacent. And I have actually been in conversations with our neighbors who are directly beside it as well. And we're all kind of collectively on the same page. I'd like to challenge a couple things around the parking and the way these exercises have gone. I mean, number one, we have not been informed. As you're aware, the alley between Monterey and Hampshire is one way that does not exit on the north. Our only exit is onto Theatre Lane. Theatre Lane is already exceptionally busy. Garbage pickup every day, large garbage pickup, deliveries to local businesses with trucks, to the pubs and to all the businesses there. When you have added the fire trucks in the last little while, because the fire trucks were actually on Monterey, in Theatre Lane, and up our alley. And when I've asked the firemen, because I was unable to get out, if they would move the trucks, they were very, very polite and kind, but it did take them 10 or 15 minutes to gather somebody up to be able to move a truck. I also just say, it is a pretty, with the smoke coming out and the firemen coming around, I think it's a lot more activity than most people would want in a daily basis in their backyard. I'd also like to speak, if I could, on the minimum standard that was discussed about mowing the lawn twice a year. I really would love to go out with the mayor and council and have a walk over the property, because it is actually, frankly, a little bit embarrassing, the state of the property and the lack of maintenance on the property. So really, as I said, we always probably understood that there would be some development there, and I understand that there is a requirement for that. But what I would appreciate is some more consultation with us, with the neighbors. This letter I got, I appreciate it, but it was the first time I'd heard about this. And when our neighbors had tried to make inquiries to the municipality about the nature of the training, we didn't get much of a response. And there are other elements with that property that are a challenge right now. And again, that is the parking on Theatre Lane. Again, as I said, Theatre Lane is very busy. It is being used as temporary parking. The municipality did put up no parking signs. What happens is the people come, they throw the signs behind the buildings, and they park there anyways. And when I've made my inquiries to the municipality, I've been told they're going to look into it. I've yet to ever hear back. Last thing is on the garbage. I would challenge what was said. That area is used as a pretty routine dump, and that material is left there for months. And if you were to go and have a look there now, people are using it as their garden dump and dump for other materials behind the garage. I would really ask that at this stage, there's some time that this be denied. There'd be some more time for consultation with us and see if there is more that can be done to support us and figure out a way forward with this property. So thank you very much, Mary. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much, Mr. King. And please come forward. Exactly the same protocol, just have a seat, turn the microphone on, your name and municipality, and then please address council.
Good evening. I'm Michael Sean Danaher. I'm next door neighbor to the person that just spoke. I'm living in Oak Bay on Hampshire, and I am the property directly adjacent behind the property we're discussing. I would just like to reiterate my neighbor's comments. The state of disrepair. I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't think I would be a good neighbor if I cut my grass twice a year. I don't think I would be a good neighbor if I didn't take care of my trees, my shrubs, if I left garbage in my yard, if I left my house in a state of disrepair. I think Oak Bay is a beautiful community. A lot of people take great pride in their buildings, and it's a black eye on the township. You really should take a look at the state of it. Several months ago, there's a garage that's Gravity is slowly winning the battle, and garbage and refuse and a fence was in disrepair. So temporary fencing was put up. The township solution was rental fencing, green rental fencing, because cars were illegally parking. There's a pub nearby, there are restaurants nearby. Parking is a premium, and they were coming into the laneway and illegally parking. So solution, let's put temporary fencing up. Temporary? Is temporary half a year? I don't want to be disrespectful, but I don't think this property is being taken care of properly. And now an application is being put in to put the house in greater state of disrepair. Let's abuse it. Let's have firemen regularly conduct drills in there. And at some point, I imagine the house will be torn down for a future developer, because not much is being done to maintain it. As was already said, a toilet is in disrepair. Okay, let's just shut that toilet off. So as a neighbor, I see the writing on the wall that this house is going to be abused until it comes down, and the town will cut the grass twice a year and barely maintain standards until someone actually builds something and respects the property.
Thank you for your comments. Any other members of the public wish to speak to council? Oh.
Hi,
Thank you.
Mayor and Council. My name is Anton Brackage, resident of Oak Bay. Live fairly near to the area in question and pass through the area fairly frequently. I guess what I would like to ask is, since this location, as I understand, is being used for training for police and fire, if this was not approved, what is the alternative for training? Is there any alternative location they could use? Or would this just mean not being able to meet the training standards? And I think that's something I'd like some clarification on. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other members of the public? We have a hand up online. Eric Zelka, please go ahead.
Council, Mayor, thank you. Eric Zelka from the north part of Oak Bay. Oh, my goodness, quite an interesting bit of information regarding this property. So many things to talk about. Number one is the state of the property is rather, I agree with many other members who have spoken. The state of the property is terrible, absolutely terrible. It reflects incredibly bad on the owner of the property, which is the District of Oak Bay, and is an indication, a proxy measure of the lack of standards, of the lowering of standards within Oak Bay. Now, this may not be true, but it sure looks that way with the way Oak Bay treats this property and treats the neighbors in that area. So absolutely, the property must be, at the very least, a grass cut more than twice a year. That's ridiculous. Number two is, I know the fire department has been looking for training places for quite a number of years. I know they were looking at the Fifth Gary Oak building at one point, but I guess that didn't work out. Mutual aid. This is the point of mutual aid. I don't know why we are not getting into contract with Saanich Fire or with Victoria Fire, or if we have to drive all the way over to Souk or whatever to do our training. Why aren't we considering mutual aid? Or is there something else going on? This is definitely a place for mutual aid. Number three, I'm quite alarmed. Well, thank you, Councillor Braithwaite, for bringing forward the question about the two lots being forced to combine into one. I was on council years ago with many of you when the building was purchased. It's a land bank, and having two lots gives greater flexibility to council for what it can be done in the future. Forcing it to be combined is ridiculous. So council should tell staff that no, do not combine the two lots, keep them separate. And if staff insists because of some, I don't know, provincial regulation, well then do the TUP only on one of the two lots. Do not combine the two lots until we know, the royal we, all of Oak Bay, what's going to be done with that area, whether it's going to be a new police station, whether it's going to be what the money was intended for, which is a parking for downtown businesses, or some other appropriate use that's a benefit to all of Oak Bay. So thank you very much, Council, and please, brush up, paint up, make us proud, as opposed to being a terrible example for the rest of us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Zelka. Do you see any other hands of people wishing to speak? Okay. I don't see any more online, so I'm going to come back to this table. We have a report in front of us. We've had an opportunity for questions. Is there any further questions from members of council at this time? Not. Go ahead, Councillor Watson, then I'll seek a direction and we have a motion.
Yes, I'd just like to follow up on the question that we got from a member of the public about alternative locations for this training. And I understand we don't have our fire chief here, but I think that's a fair question. If not here, is there anywhere else within the municipality that we can meet our requirements and standards for that very regular training? So I don't know who to give that to. Maybe I guess it is Mr. Graham. Thank you.
Mr. Graham.
Through your worship, there were a couple of comments made. One was having training off outside the district. If we do that, we have to take the crew offline. So we'd basically be paying 2 crews to do it. There's no other training that's within the response time zones. The training being very close to the existing fire hall allows us to keep that crew in an active status, and that if there is an emergency call, they can respond immediately. Getting too far outside of, too far south or too far north, the trucks won't be able to respond adequately. So there is no other location that we've currently identified.
Thank you, Mr. Graham.
Thank you. I'm going to just do a follow-up before I go to Councillor Braithwaite, and that is just the fire department does do current training. I think it is in the Scout Hall or some other areas. Is there, and you may not know this question, maybe more for the fire chief, but is there a mechanism by which the frequency of use of this building is not daily or near daily, but is more sort of is used more episodically, and the existing sites that are being used continue, Mr. Graham?
To your worship, I can certainly explore that with the fire chief and get a more accurate schedule from him and get that, bring that information back to council.
All right. Councillor Braithwaite?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just wondering if we did want to go and have a meeting with the neighbors around this property, and it puts a bit of a delay on this, would there be any issues with putting a temporary delay on passing this? So to give us an opportunity to perhaps get some more information for the public and from the public?
Mr. Graham?
Through your worship, that one I would want to refer to the fire chief. I know that if we're not doing training adequately enough, we do fall out of our standards, but we do have some leeway. Currently, some of the training we've been doing in the parking lot, which creates its own issues with the playground adjacent to it, is meeting the minimum standards, but we are now falling out of standard. We need a structure to work with.
Ms. Anderson?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe Chief McDonald has joined us online.
Do you want to put that? Do you want to put that question to the Chief McDonald?
Sure. Chief McDonald, I'm not sure if you heard the question, but it was in regards to if we did delay this decision so that we could go out to the public and perhaps get more information for them and for council, would that be an issue for the fire department?
Go ahead, Chief.
Hi, can you hear me, Your Honor?
And
yes, I heard the question. Thank you and good evening. I have been following the past 10 minutes or so. Yes, if we do delay that will have somewhat of an impact on our day-to-day training. We can do some limited interior training at the fire hall, but we can't do multi-floor training, and we are extremely limited with regards to our options to perform our provincial job performance requirements under the OFC playbook and the provincial training requirements, where we can do interior search and multi-floor training. This is one of the few locations that we can actually do it in the district.
Thank you very much. Because I'm just trying to find a solution that we could move forward with this, but and yet give the residents an opportunity to have some input into or to gather more information for them to be able to make them feel comfortable about this happening within their neighborhood as well. And I'm just not really sure how to go about that.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may, we do have a training calendar for the year, and it is possible for us to develop a schedule that we can make available. We can also post it when we do plan on being on premises, providing our operational schedule allows it.
Thank you for that, Chief.
I guess my other question would be around the maintenance as well, because that to me is kind of shocking in regards to us allowing a property to be, if it's in that sort of disrepair. I would like to know from staff if we can up the maintenance on that property and take care of some of the things that the residents around there have talked about tonight, because that to me seems like that would be an issue that we would really want to take care of.
Maybe give that to the Chief. Chief, how's your green thumb? Mr. Graham? Oh, Ms. Hunt.
Well, through the chair, I can jump in actually in assistance with to Mr. Graham. The fire department does have some funds that were allocated for capital improvements to support training, which you might be able to work with facilities to provide some support and financial options over the coming period of time.
You wanted to add something?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Council could direct staff to consult with the neighbours and have a conversation with them, report back to council in terms of what we can do, to increase the maintenance and the costs and resources involved in that. And we can report back to council, but that is something that council could direct staff to do.
All right, thank you for that. I'll go to Councillor Green, and then I have a question.
Are you taking comments yet, or just questions at the moment?
We don't have a motion on the floor, but so probably try and really keep this to questions at this point, and then we can get some direction from council and speak to that for comments.
Okay, and then through you, Mayor, to staff, and thank you very much for all the information. It says in the report that part of the intended use was temporary municipal offices, and I guess my question is, what is required to make those habitable then, given the state of what the neighbors have reported and the fact that the house is being used for something very different at the moment? What was the plan around temporary office space? Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Green.
That will be a question for the applicant.
Okay, yeah,
Mr. Graham.
sorry, I saw you raise your hand. Mr. Graham, my impression here is that the municipal office space is essentially not really on the books at this point.
Through your worship, there's no active plans to do that. It is an emergency backup for business continuity if one of our other facilities had a flood or something like that. The interior of the building is clean, usable. There's one toilet that I would probably replace if I had it. The roof doesn't leak. The windows are sealed. It is not inside. It is in good condition.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then my question is probably to Mr. Green. And then I'll go to Councillor Smart first.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, just a procedural question to staff, just following up on the conversation around the table, just trying to take into consideration the timelines, but the needs we've heard today. I wondered if we were potentially to go ahead with option 2 to approve with conditions and to request that council have an opportunity to approve a proposed maintenance and training schedule. Would that address some of the concerns around delaying approval of the project at all, or would it have the same time implications that were a concern for the chief?
Mr. Green?
Through your worship, to Councillor Smart, I guess, council could approve this with some conditions that are delegated to staff to work with the applicant on. So you could say that, council could approve subject to a pre-issuance condition, subject to receiving a maintenance plan or a training schedule from the applicant to address council's concerns, or you could ask for that to come back. The benefit of a temporary use permit is that council can add whatever condition they so choose, as long as it's generally related to the application. That is the benefit of a temporary use permit, and so council could add a specific condition to that permit, or you could defer it to receive that information and defer a decision to a later date. It would be ideal to a specific date, so then we wouldn't need to give notification again if you deferred it to a specific date. And to receive that further information, that is also an option for council as well.
And then my question is to Mr. Green, and it just touches on a couple of comments made in the course of the discussion, and that is around the combining of the two lots. There is certainly some value for us to continue to keep them as they currently are. So is there a legal requirement? I know the building does straddle both lots, but is there a legal requirement? Can we do two temporary use permits, essentially bridging both lots, or is there a legal requirement for a temporary use permit to be attached to a single lot? Mr. Green?
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I guess from the planning department's perspective, we've been treating this applicant as if they were any other applicant, and so if this was a private landowner and not the district, then we would have that same requirement that we would want to try and address that legal non-conforming nature, i.e. there's an expectation that a property is brought into compliance with the district's zoning bylaw, acknowledging that if from a council's perspective, if council wanted to remove that condition because they felt that it would be more beneficial in the long run to have two legal lots rather than one lot, then obviously council could delete that condition. But it's just that we have been essentially acting as a development authority and treating this applicant like we would treat any other applicant in this process.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And I guess I'm looking at this really through the lens of the temporary part of the temporary use permit and trying to minimize the both impact and changes since we don't know what the future holds. So.
I guess there's the one thing that I would add is that obviously that is a legal non-conforming building. The legal non-conforming can't be exacerbated, and so there can be no changes to that building that would exacerbate any of those existing non-conformities, and without either bringing that property into compliance by removing the building and meeting those setbacks, or seeking a development variance permit to allow those exacerbation of that variance or that encroachment.
Sure. And just to that point, is there anything in the proposed uses here that would be anticipated?
No, Your Worship, in terms of what the applicant has currently submitted is an applicant to use that building in its current form with no further changes to the building in relation to that legal non-conforming building in relation to both FAR and the straddling of that legal lot line.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, we're going to try and seek a proposed motion here to speak to. Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'll test the will of council here and see whether this works. So I will propose a motion based on option 2. So I will propose to move that council approve the temporary use permit for the property located at 1538 Monterey Avenue with additional conditions of use, of which there are 2. Firstly, that Oak Bay Facilities Services and the fire service host a joint public information session to outline fire training scope and schedule and receive feedback with respect to parking and site upkeep. And secondly, let the applicant explore options to utilize fire services training capital funds to expand the program of site maintenance.
Second that, and I would like to put a little amendment on there for one other condition, if I could.
I'll let the mover speak to it first, and if there's a... Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your
For
Worship.
your comments, if you wish to hear Councillor Braithwaite's proposed motion, if you wish.
I guess it depends on the scope thereof.
Sure.
My amendment would just be around a schedule of maintenance for the property to be included.
I think that was essentially included in there, that conversation.
That was sort of the intent, Your Worship, but I think clarifying is fine.
That's fine. As long as we have that maintenance for that property, that's great.
I think there's, in the second part of that is to expand the program of site maintenance. I think we've heard that the current program of site maintenance is not adequate, so, or at least as per the discussion.
So why don't you speak to your motion, Councillor Appleton?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just there's a balance to be struck here with this, and I hear loud and clear from the neighbors and the members of the public that want more information about what's going on. It represents a change in use of the property. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be an insignificant amount of activity that's going on around the site, and I think that everybody in the neighborhood deserves a chance to understand really clearly what's happening and at what time, what to expect. That's important. And at the same time, ensuring that the property as a whole is kept up and hopefully, improved cosmetically as part of the ongoing use of the site for training. So I think that would constitute an improvement. I do believe I am in favor, as per the motion, of the temporary use permit going ahead now. And it's important for the public to be reminded of the fact that it is becoming increasingly more complex for the fire service. Fire training requirements are expanding. We have, as the public is well aware, we have reduced training capacity ability on the actual firefighters park site because we were in need of a new fire apparatus, which requires its own building, which requires an expanded footprint. This constrains what fire services can do on the site, and at the same time they have expanding training requirements. As has been referenced here, training cannot happen outside of the district. As we've talked about around this table many times, we only have one crew, and so that's while training, that crew has to be available to deploy while they're doing that training. So it severely limits the number of potential options for training sites. And I can certainly recognize that there are suboptimal things about this particular site. It is in close proximity to the village. There's certainly a discussion to be had with the local community about how operations are deployed on the ground, and I'm sure our fire services will work with the community to kind of come up with the best solution on that side of things. But I think that there's a conversation there to have, but I do think that it's important that the temporary use permit move ahead now with the understanding that those services will consult with the public and have that conversation with the neighbors. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Watson and the Braithwaite.
Mayor, if I may, the second part of that, the second part of those conditions, it does raise a question for me, and I wonder if I could ask it to staff. It was about the actual source of the funds for the maintenance. Would that be in order?
It is, although I'm not sure they would have an absolute answer at this point. We had a comment from the chief that they may have some funds available. But Mr. Graham, as the applicant, I'll give that over to you.
Through your worship, if I understand the question correctly, is the amount of funds or where they're coming from? Sorry?
No, my question was going to be about, this motion is very specific as to the source, but I wondered if there was a possibility that there'd be other places where those funds could be sourced from that weren't capital accounts that could also solve this problem. So I just didn't want our motion necessarily to be too narrow if we should go broader. And that was with all respect to the mover.
Mr. Graham?
Through your worship, we would actually have to use an operating account. We can't use a capital account for landscaping and upkeep that way. But what we can do is through budget amendments, we can shift money around. I'm paraphrasing, but yes, we can make that work.
Thank you. So if I may, if it's possible, I could suggest to the mover that we just make that language a bit more generic as opposed to pointing to a fund that can't actually be used. Is that it?
To the mover?
I'm amenable to that, Your Worship. Yeah, I understand completely the inability to apply capital funds to maintenance for sure. I was just reflecting what I've heard, Chief McDonald reference as far as some available funds and that sort of thing. But certainly if there were operating surplus or another another location that facility services might be able to find those operating funds and if necessary, amend the financial bylaw in order to reflect that, then I think that that's certainly an option as well.
Sure. If I just, before we go on with other comments, I just, probably worthwhile, just, can you just read the proposed motion again, just so we all have the language fresh in our mind?
So then I guess then I'm looking to amend part 2 then, your worship, because that's, I specifically referenced capital funds, but I
To
think
read it
was
with the amendment, just to remove the word.
the amendment would be, and that the applicant explore options to reallocate district funds to expand the program of site maintenance.
Okay, thank you. So there's two parts to that. One is consultation with neighbors and improved maintenance. Is that the two pieces? Okay. Councillor Braithwaite.
Yeah, thanks very much. And I think this is far more supportable than option 1. I think that we do have to support our fire department to assist with their fire training, but I also think that we have to support the neighbors as well and the residents. So I hope it alleviates some of their concerns. And I'm sure that if it doesn't, and if there's issues, that they'll come back and talk to us. Thank you.
Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I will support the amendment put forward, and in general, I support this. In fact, it's already being used for this, so putting into place a temporary use permit is a little late in coming because it is already being used. But I particularly appreciate the consideration of improved site maintenance because we are not really being a good neighbor. And if we want residents to maintain their properties in good condition, I think that it's up to us to set the example. So, and I think also, and Chief isn't in the room, but I think that the fire department will be able to review just the logistics of how the training exercises are carried out, because it is a very public area, heavily used during the day, and there is not an easy way to cross the street to avoid it unless you go all the way back to the crosswalk at the fire hall. So, so there are a few things, but I think we are already putting the building to this use. We understand the reasons why we have to do this to support our fire department, but we can certainly look at improving the site conditions for the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any other speakers on the motion? Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Thank you very much, and I too will support the motion. But I just want to say I think this is a really good lesson for us as a property owner. We've talked about a maintenance bylaw in Oak Bay off and on over the years. Unfortunately, we're the poster child for why we need a maintenance bylaw on this particular home, and that's not a criticism of anyone, but I know this house has been the object of many ideas and machinations about its future. So I'm very pleased with the motion. I appreciate Councillor Appleton's motion and Councillor Braithwaite's amendments. But I just want to say that, we must be good neighbors. We are setting the example for the rest of the community. I think it's really important, and that maybe we have a chance now to sort of re-examine that. I also agree that we have to support our fire department. Knowing the chief as I do, I think he will work hard to develop a working relationship with neighbors. I think that's an absolute imperative, and I know the neighbors will appreciate that, and I'm sure that they will get back to us if there are any challenges ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. I have one question for the chief with the motion that's on the floor, to Chief McDonald through myself. Hearing the concerns raised about the impact on the parking and on the transport of people and in the village itself, as the schedule is developed, is it fair to assume that the fire department will look at the days of use of that particular house, recognizing that some have to be done on 2-story, as noted? There are some aspects of that the house is essentially unique in the readily available sites, but that they can look at that as to how often it has to be used and minimize the use of that site to minimize the impact on the neighborhood. So I'm just going to give it over to you, Chief, just because I think that's one of the concerns that I've heard from the neighbors And I think probably from the business community would reflect that as well.
Thank you, Worship. Excellent point. And yes, the fire department can be very diligent in developing our training plan to be very conscious about the options that we have and where we are using it. And I think we can also be a bit more mindful with regards to how we are managing the site when we are on scene, and ensure that we do have a safety officer who can either stop training and chaperone the public through the area safely, and be a respectful neighbor in this regard.
The question was really just to this table, because one of the points raised here was around the direction, whether or not to require the staff, follow the staff recommendation, which I think the current motion does, of amalgamating the two lots, or do we want to keep those two lots separate for the time being, subject to future planning with the village area plan? So I just throw that out there as for conversation with the council, because I think it was discussed. We should probably be clear in the motion going forward. I would probably suggest if someone wants to, given I think the current motion as it stands would essentially keep the merging of the two lots, that I think any decision by the council to not do that would probably require a motion to amend to give that direction as part of the motion to retain the two lots.
I think it makes sense to keep the lots separate, actually. I know that in the future.
So I'm just going to ask if you're interested in doing that, just to make an amendment to the motion that
so I
also
would
include that direction.
I would move an amendment to keep the two lots separate and not amalgamate them
for the duration.
For the duration of the TUP.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Okay. I guess not. So we'll leave that there. Those are my only two sort of questions I wanted to make sure we clarified before we move forward with any other pieces. Any other discussion? So the motion on the floor is to approve the TUP, but subject to consultation with neighbors on the use and the impacts, and dedication of resources to improve the maintenance of that lot. So I'm going to then put that to question. All those in favor? And those opposed? Seeing none opposed, that carries. That was a more complicated application than I was anticipating, so thank you everybody for the discussion. And thank you very much to the neighbors for coming out and sharing your experiences and input. You're welcome to. Everybody's welcome to stick around, but you don't have to, because we move on to 10.3, which is another temporary use permit. And this one for Cadboro Bay Road and Cranmore Road parking lot. We've had a number of pieces of correspondence on this one, and I'll give this over to Mr. Hatfield. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is another district-initiated temporary use permit application for council's consideration. This application is for the unaddressed district-owned parking lot located at the corner of Cadboro Bay Road and Cranmore Road. The purpose of this application is to permit the use of the property for a limited recycling depot use for a period of 3 years. The applicant for this application is the district's engineering department. This application was initiated by the district in line with council direction received at a special council meeting held on June 15th, 2026. Staff were then directed to participate in the Capital Regional Districts Beyond the Curb initiative and prepare and submit a temporary use permit application for the subject property in question. Planning staff are recommending the temporary use permit application be approved based on the proposal's alignment with district official community plan policy. The proposed temporary use also represents a service level enhancement to the existing recycling drop-off services offered to residents while posing no cost to the district. No permanent site changes are proposed, and operations will be limited to weekends from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. as a condition of the temporary use permit that staff are recommending, avoiding the peak congestion in this area often associated with school operations. Planning staff are here to answer your applications and speak to the application. Steve Rennick, the District's Director of Engineering and Public Works, is present today to answer any questions council might have on this application as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Did you wish to add anything, Director Rennick?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. No, I believe that between the discussion that we had in June and Mr. Hadfield's introductory comments, I think I'm happy to take questions.
All right, thank you very much. We have had some correspondence from the public on this, and I'll turn it over to the members of council for questions. I'll go to Councillor Smart and then Braithwaite.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Director Rennick. My first question was just with regards to whether or not parking within the parking lot will be reserved to allow people to park in the lot when they're using the facilities. I just wondered if there's a parking plan at this point.
And Mr. Rennick?
Through the mayor, we had not intended on having reserved parking in that lot for the use of the depot. Ultimately, putting restrictions on municipal parking lots is something that council has delegated to staff. I think that if we were seeing a persistent problem of people parking vehicles there and then walking to the rec center or something like that and impeding the ability for that site to be used for recycling, I think we would have tools in the toolbox to be able to manage that.
Anything else?
Yes, through you, Mayor Director Rennick. My other question was just with regards to some of the emails we received, and I wondered if, can you remind us, is street parking enforced on the weekends? Just if there's incorrect parking?
Mr. Rennick? Mr. Bogle?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, during the weekends, there is less enforcement on parking. However, if there are serious things that need to be addressed, Oak Bay Police will be able to address those. Thanks.
Councillor Smart?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, my last question is just with regards to, has there been communication or response from the school district on this?
Give it to staff, I think, for the notification, or Mr. Rennick.
Thank you. Through the mayor, the school district would have received a notification because the high school is within the notification window, but I'm not aware of any response from the high school or from School District 61.
Councillor Braithwaite?
Thanks very much. Yeah, mine was around traffic as well, because there's no, I know we haven't done a traffic study around that area, but there could be people queuing up to get in and out of that to drop off, and I'm wondering whether or not the vehicles could be interfering with emergency access because of the fire hall being so close by, and I'm wondering if there's anything in place for that, or if you have any anticipation of there being that many vehicles that could interfere with emergency access.
Mr. Rennick?
Through the mayor, I don't see the amount of vehicles really being a major concern, and ultimately, they are vehicles. They do have a requirement to pull the right and stop if they hear an emergency vehicle approaching with lights and sirens on. So, on the whole, I don't think that's a concern.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I would, through you to staff, just wondering if there has been any further consideration for directional traffic, because the traffic can approach that site either from Cranmore or from Cadboro Bay Road. Cadboro Bay Road, of course, it's the bus stop, and the crosswalk is located in that location. And while Sunday it may be quieter, Saturday it's very busy pedestrian and traffic flow. So I fail to understand how we will have smooth interaction between the cycling lane, the pedestrian crosswalk, and vehicles if they're coming from both directions and then exiting. So I'd just like further clarification to see if staff have given that more consideration.
Mr. Rennick?
Through the mayor, similar to the response with regard to the parking restrictions, I think that those are tools that we can use in consultation with the operator if we do see a need. I do understand the concern that's being raised of, well, would it be better for the flow of traffic if you made one entrance the entrance and the other one the exit? But then you have the concern of, well, now do people have to make a left turn off of Cadboro Bay Road in order to get into the site when they would rather come around from the Cranmore side, for example? And I'm just overall of the opinion that I think we should see the site in operation before we make changes to how the vehicles enter and exit it.
Yes, thank you. So for clarification, what I'm hearing then is that if this goes forward tonight, the staff will be still monitoring this and making adjustments as necessary to protect the safety of pedestrians and cyclists too.
Mr. Reddick?
Through the mayor, that is 100% correct.
All right, thank you. Other questions? So process here is there's no more questions. We'll go to the public for comments and we'll come back to this table for potential direction. I think I'll leave my questions for the time being and invite members of the public who wish to speak to council. We do have some correspondence for consideration. Please come on in. You probably heard the process before. We try to be not intimidating. Just have a seat, turn on the microphone, which is the center button. Perfect. And then just state your name, municipality of residence, and then you can address council.
My name is Sasha Wilbur, and I'm a resident of Oak Bay for many years. And I rent an apartment in one of those apartment buildings near Oak Bay High, Oak Bay High. And I support this temporary use permit for a recycling site at this location. I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to using it to recycle my glass and soft plastics and batteries, etc. I hope that this new recycling opportunity will help to reduce the amount of recyclables in the landfill. And I'd like to suggest that you also put some kind of collection option for clothing on the site. For example, there are those pink Lifetime Network bins, like the ones at St. Philip's on Easttown. I don't know if you've seen those. They're in the parking lot. And those bins are for clothing, shoes, and household items like bedding and toys and that type of thing. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I should just point out, this is a Capital Regional District-wide program that they're driving the standards with the bottle depot and setting those. So it's not our program that we're selecting what kind of services are going there. We're agreeing to a temporary use permit or not to allow a site for them to run that operation. So.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So the type of things like flexible packers, styrofoam, et cetera, batteries, light bulbs are set by by this regional program, not by Oak Bay.
Okay. Well,
you can just have a seat down so people at home can hear if you have anything else. I'm just for your clarification, it wasn't a.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. So just for your clarification, I just want to say that this Coastal Networks is an organization that they run the bins and they have people pick things up and regularly empty them. They don't allow things to overflow from the bins, and they have phone numbers on the bin to contact if there's any problem. And yeah, so yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public, either online or in person, wish to speak? Okay, I have Mr. Zelka online. You're welcome to address council. Just unmute you. There we go. Same process as before. Name and municipality, please.
Wonderful. You can hear me okay?
You can. Please go ahead.
Lovely. Hello, Your Worship, councillors. My name is Eric Zelka in the north part of Oak Bay. Thank you for the time to speak today. I stand before you firmly opposed to the temporary use permit for the proposed recycle depot at Cadboro Bay Road and Cranmore Road parking lot. While the idea of expanded recycling sounds appealing, it sounds great. It sounds like we're doing something. Yay. The practical evidence and the realities and the direct impacts on our community simply do not justify this location. If you absolutely must proceed with this, then the district Oak Bay lands north of Cedar Hill Crossroads at Henderson Recreation Center, which are not used on the weekend, it appears, might be much more appropriate, or possibly Harleen Point might be a good place. Both those areas have very few services available, and might as well spread the services around across Oak Bay, and because they would have fewer impacts on our residents. And first, We must acknowledge the actual efficacy of what we're collecting. The narrative around soft plastics and styrofoam is highly misleading. According to numerous news reports, including from the CBC, only about 5% of this soft plastic waste and styrofoam is actually recycled. Soft plastics normally jam up processing machinery, et cetera, and end markets often reject mixed or contaminated bales of it. It ultimately ends up being burned, sent out of province, goes to landfill, et cetera, et cetera. We're forcing a local neighborhood disruption for a global processing system that is fundamentally broken. And by the way, the current system was built assuming everything could be sent to China. China no longer receives our recycling. So it'd be interesting to see how much money we're actually making from styrofoam and soft plastics from our current operations. Recycle BC suggests 98% of materials actually collected are recycled. Having worked for this BC government and seeing many, many failed initiatives with great marketing, I do not believe those numbers. Second, I question the basic necessity of this new site. We already have a working facility, the district's drop-off depot public works yard on Elgin Street, just north of Oak Bay, down the road from this site. It already accepts soft plastics and styrofoam. Importantly, that Oak Bay facility is already fully staffed and open to residents on Saturdays. Duplicating this exact smelly service beside a school and in the middle of residential area makes no sense. And finally, we must consider the severe impact on the immediate neighbors. There's a vast difference between community youth fundraiser and a recurring depot. The impacts to community groups such as the 5th Gary Oak Scout Group, the Girl Guides, and other community groups who already do bottle collection, such as the one at Carnarvon Park, those one-day localized volunteer events are fantastic. They will be impacted by this. What is being proposed with this permit is completely different operation. This depot will be staffed by return personnel handling depot deposit materials. Introducing a cash exchange for empties guarantees a steady stream of heavy traffic. People will be lugging bags of clinking bottles and cans in a residential area, broken glass, et cetera, et cetera. These are realities. If any of you have actually tried to return stuff down to the return facilities downtown. Constant vehicle idling, noise, and disruption that's entirely inappropriate for this location. How will you, council, guarantee that no leftover garbage, broken glass, or smell will be left over for the schools and for the neighbors to deal with? And finally, how will parking be maintained at the end of this TUP, since this permit says it must be returned to the zoning as indicated, and that zoning does not allow parking. So again, the TUP has to be modified in this case. I urge council to deny this permit should you happen to in my opinion, go ahead. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Councillor Zelka. Any other members of the public who wish to address council? I'm just going to pass one question off to staff. My understanding of this is, can you just clarify the funding of refundable deposits? Is this a return for cash, or is it a drop-off facility without payment?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Mayor. This was the first that I had heard about it being a cash refundable. Certainly the way the program was presented to us by the CRD was that it was a drop-off recycling. Certainly do not anticipate that it's being cash returns.
All right. So we may want to make that clarification as part of our approval of the TEP if that's a concern of council. Any other questions? I don't see any other members of the public who wish to address council. If you wish to speak for a second time, we don't usually allow that, but
I very much appreciate it.
Very brief.
Thank you again. It's Eric Zelka, North Oak Bay. The staff report, if you read it carefully, it actually talks about returnables for cash with exchange. It's in the staff report. So if you approve this, you are approving money exchange by the return of staff personnel. Please read the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Zelka. It does refer to refundable beverage containers. It does not speak specifically to it, the refunding happening at the site. If you could just make your comments briefly, we don't usually have second time speakers.
I didn't hear a lot of support, like backup for the assertions just made. And I support your idea of just going ahead and doing it and seeing how things go. I mean, I look in our garbage cans every day at the building I live in.
That's fine.
And
It's back
they
at
need
this.
to try something.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. I'm just going to make sure that every member of the public that wishes to speak has a chance to speak. I don't see any other hands raised, though, at this time to speak. Oh, Mr. Brock, please come forward. Same process, name, municipality, residence. Then I'm going to bring it back to this table for discussion and direction. If you just turned it off.
Hello, everyone, Mayor and Council. Thank you again. My name again is Anton Brackage, resident of Oak Bay. From what I've heard, I think this sounds like a perfectly reasonable thing to approve. I would support it as well. And I would say that I would agree with this, that what criticisms we've heard of it do not appear to be particularly well-founded, in my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brockich. One more chance for the members of the public to address council. All right, seeing none, I'm going to come back to this table. I'm going to seek, I'll just see if there's any questions before I go to seeking a motion. No more questions. Go ahead, Councillor Watson.
Yeah, I'd like to remove the staff recommendation that council approve temporary use permit TUP 0002 for the property located at the corner of Cadboro Bay Road and Cranmore Road.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Just to speak briefly to you.
Yeah, just to say, I think this is a great initiative, and it's a lovely marriage between a program that the CRD is willing to come forward and do, and our own needed direction to staff to find some options for pedestrians and cyclists to be able to access recycling facilities within the community. So I think it solves that issue really beautifully and provides regular access to the same kind of facility that they don't have access to at the municipal yard. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Worship. So certainly support what's on the table here. I guess I would call the public and council's attention. This is very good timing. There was actually an article presented on the CBC just today with respect to what they referred to as wish cycling, which is sort of cross-contamination of recyclables, and how this has actually become a significant concern in some other municipalities. As council is probably aware, and staff certainly knows, that we're required when operating our municipal recycling systems to keep contamination by other materials down below a certain level, or actually in some cases risk financial penalties, and in certain situations, too much contamination can obviously result in the whole load of recyclables not being recycled and in fact landfilled. So there was just a recent article about how significant the issue is becoming. So this, I think, really provides a directed opportunity for us to provide an opportunity for folks to recycle things which are not blue box. Many things are not blue box materials. Some things are not available for recycling at our current drop-off depot. So provides a real tactile and a real practical way for people to minimize cross-contamination, which has real concrete and significant potential results for the district if contamination expands beyond a certain level. So it has a lot of practical benefits in my mind, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Green.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to support the motion. I think we also have a year in which to assess the location in terms of traffic safety and public pedestrian safety and so on, and I think neighbors will have a chance to weigh in. And so we have a year to sort of trial this program, and I think it's a good opportunity to do that. But I am mindful of some of the concerns that have been expressed about traffic noise and parking.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, I guess I'm hesitant at supporting this, but I recognize it is a temporary use. However, I must admit I am a bit disappointed that we are placing yet more traffic flow in a part of the community where people have already expressed so many concerns about transportation issues, and I live through that daily, so I certainly appreciate those concerns, and I think that while we are considering this, we haven't as a council received a transportation overview of this area and how it does function and the changes, and how they will be monitored to ensure that we are not, it feels like we're overburdening a part of the community that is already taking more than their share of the burden while relieving it from other areas. And so I just put those comments out there. While I support some of the initiative by the CRD, and certainly it will provide the opportunity for people to access this on foot or other methods like that. I could see certainly where it also could add to a lot of the transportation problems that the area is already experiencing. So while I'll support it, I think that we need to pay more attention to what we're doing, transportation in that whole area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't see any other discussion. I just want to raise the flag. I think the question was raised, and it seemed to be just a lack of clarity on the question of whether or not this would be acting as a commercial payer of refundables. And so I think if that's not part of, I mean, I will point out there is payable refundables immediately across the street, basically at Save On Foods and at the liquor store. And so if it's something we want to be able to receive them, but don't want this to become a commercial transaction place, we may want to make that as a condition of the top. At least we get the information back. So, Ms. Hunt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I did actually have a look at the CRD's Beyond the Curb website, and it says beverage containers and in brackets donation only. So I don't believe that they are.
Thank you.
There's any cash transaction.
Thank you for looking that up. I was trying to find it, but a few too many things going on here. Thank you for that clarification. So I don't think we need any more clarification for that. And I don't see any other hands. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Unopposed. Thank you very much. I move to 10.4, which is a correspondence management policy update. Ms. Anderson, this was before Committee of the Whole, and there's been a couple of changes based on the feedback. So over to you for the update.
Thank you, Mayor. That was my opening comments. It is providing clarity for council corresponding with the public related to governance-related matters and correspondence timelines and process when it relates to bylaws subject to public hearing. So the revisions are incorporated into the version before you for consideration or approval.
Thank you very much. It is subject to public input, so we'll take questions first and then public and then back to this table. Braithwaite and Watson.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And thanks so much for implementing those suggestions from last week. That was awesome. And I just have one question in regards to the words disregarded and deleted when it comes to council submissions around the public hearing process. I'm just wondering, I understand the legal reasoning for that, but I'm just wondering whether deleting correspondence might raise questions. So I'm wondering if it might be more appropriate to say that the correspondence will not be considered as part of the public hearing process, but will be retained as part of the corporate record rather than deleted, or is there a reason why we would say disregarded and deleted?
Ms. Anderson? Who's looking at Mr. Bull? You can hand this off if you want. I'll give it to Mr. Bull.
Thank you, Mayor. I haven't looked at the legislation, but we could, and I think that there's another set of correspondence, I think, that gets provided later after the decision is made. So I think this could be treated the same, but I'm also look at Ms. Anderson, who has spent more time on this policy than I have, so thanks.
Yes, thank you. So 9.5 is in relation to correspondence received by council members. So it is sitting in your inboxes. It isn't a corporate record at that point. So there would need to be a transaction between the council member forwarding it to corporate in order for it to be on file with us. And that it does muddy the waters on what is being considered as part of the public hearing package at that point. So when it hits the inboxes of those individual council members, it would be better to disregard and delete, because then there couldn't be any confusion that it had been considered as part of the public hearing.
Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Watson.
Yes, thank you. And I also have a question for Ms. Anderson, and it's just a clarification. Thank you for the updates to the draft. On the flow chart document, the correspondence minute flow chart, attachment 3, on the second page, there's just something that I didn't quite understand, and it may not have gotten updated at the same time as the rest of the policy did. And it's stream 5, and that would be on page 140 of the agenda, or I think it's page 20 of your report. It says, council members who have received correspondence after public hearing deadline but before decision, so that's the item. And then it says, inform the member of the public that at the public hearing they will have the opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions for the public record. The chronology of that doesn't make sense to me. It speaks to something about correspondence after the public hearing, but it gives advice for what to do before the public hearing. So I just wonder if I'm missing something there.
I think that's referring to the public hearing deadline, not the public hearing per se.
Okay, so as long as you guys know what that means, I couldn't parse that, but maybe it just is missing a word. Anyway, I'll leave that to you.
And thank you through the mayor. We can update this to include the deadline, more consistent language with the policy if it would make it easier.
Yeah, it would, because I actually couldn't follow it. So I would certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think the wording is correct, but I think part of it is just because the carriage return happens after, correspondence after public hearing. And so you sort of trigger that's after the public hearing, but of course it continues on deadline. And so I think, anyway, I don't think it affects the actual policy. I think that can be either a formatting thing or just some minor clarification language changes. Any other comments or questions at this point? Anybody from the public wish to address this item on the agenda, which is 10.4 Correspondence Management Policy? Always take a moment. Nope, nobody has raised their hand online or in person, so I'll come back to this table for direction.
I'll move the recommendation.
This is for approval of the Correspondence Management Policy. Thank you, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? We had a robust discussion on this at Committee of the Whole, so I don't, anybody's wondering why this is going through so smoothly, that is why. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson, for that report and for joining us tonight to be here to present it. We move then to section 11. This area is not for public input relating to bylaws and permits. 11.1 is for 2630 Margate Avenue. This is a zoning bylaw amendment. Ms. Claver is with us again to introduce this item, and the applicant is here as well. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This report, as you noted, refers to a zoning bylaw amendment application for the property located at 2630 Market Avenue. The application specifically seeks a site-specific amendment to facilitate the construction of a new single-family dwelling and an associated patio directly outside of the rear of the property of the residence. There is a protected mature Atlas cedar in the boulevard, and so the siting of the new residence specifically is cited to avoid or at least to protect the critical tree root system of this tree. And also because of the sloping of the site, the house is positioned exactly where it is. Because under the district zoning bylaw, patios exceeding 8 inches above natural grade do trigger or fall under the definition of floor area, and floor area and being a measurement of density. If you exceed the allowance, a zoning bylaw amendment is required, hence why we're here today. So a tree management plan was submitted, so it did consider this mature tree as well as the remaining site. The Parks Department did evaluate this tree management plan, and the walkway actually was from the front entrance was actually redesigned to consider Parks Department referral comments, and ultimately they're satisfied with the current plan. Ultimately, the amendment is pretty limited in scale. It represents a pretty modest exceedance of the permitted floor area and lot coverage, and which this primarily relates to the inclusion of the elevated patio. So ultimately, staff recommend first, second, and third reading, as well as adoption of the bylaw tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Claver. Are there any questions for the applicant or staff? Please go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite, and then.
Thanks very much, Mayor. I have two questions. The one would be, if we did approve this amendment, could a future owner choose to enclose the patio without getting a zoning amendment?
Ms. Cleaver?
So it would have to fit specifically. The variances that we're including in this bylaw amendment speak to the lot coverage and the FAR, or the floor area, and ultimately we've increased it ever so slightly. I think you could see it's at 32% and 0.5 for FAR why can't I speak tonight? To make the patio an enclosure. Can we do some bloopers, please? Ultimately, that would trigger even further. And so ultimately, that would very likely exceed what is being approved tonight. And so we would have to come back to council.
Thank you for that. And then my second question is the rear setback, the required rear setback is like 7.6 meters, but the proposal is providing like 18.74 meters, which is quite large. And I'm wondering if there was any consideration given to moving the house slightly forward, if it would still protect the trees. It's probably a question for the proponent, just because you do have such a large rear setback in the back.
Sure. So just need to state your name and municipality of residence, and then you can answer the question.
Sure. Hi, my name is Louis Horvat. Good evening, Mayor Council. So if I understand the question correctly, is it if we were to move the building forward toward the street? So we haven't considered that only because of the root zone of the tree. The root zone is touching our building right now. So it's as far forward as we would like to push it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff or the applicant? I'm not seeing it. It's usually a good sign. Yeah. So I'll turn to the council to see if someone wishes to.
I'll move that council give first and second reading to zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4976, 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, please carry.
I'll move that council give third reading to zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4976, 2026.
Moved and seconded, thank you. No issue debate on third reading. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed?
And I'll move that council adopt zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4976, 2026.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Before I call the questions, since there's unanimous agreement on this, just want to congratulate you and wish you all the best with the project. It'll be a lovely project and a lovely street, so good luck. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? Carries. Yeah, thank you. Moving on then to item 11.2. This is 310 King George Terrace, zoning bylaw amendment. Mr. Green, this is an application we had some time ago, but with some modifications.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. This item relates to a zoning amendment application that Council gave 3 readings to on November the 24th, 2025. Since that time, the applicant has received updated survey information from their surveyor for the subject property, which has altered the proposed lot layout. Because the proposed CD8 zone was specifically for this proposed subdivision of the subject property, amendments are also required to the zone to accommodate the updated survey information, specifically in relation to the minimum lot size and minimum lot width. As such, staff are recommending that Council rescind third reading of the zoning amendment bylaws and that Council amend the bylaw and give third reading to the bylaw. Staff are also recommending that a Section 219 covenant be registered as a charge on title to secure the accessible washroom for the secondary suite in either Lot 2, Lot 3 or Lot 4, and ensure that a residential fire sprinkler system is installed in each of the residential units to address the concerns of the fire department. The applicant is also here to answer any questions that Council may have of the application, and also happy to answer any questions that Council may have on the application. Thank you.
Very convenient having the same applicant for 2 applications, but it's too bad that you're here at the end of the night, not the beginning. Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And I just wanted to clarify from staff that aside from the revised survey and corresponding lot dimensions, that no other aspect of the development has changed, including building size, floor area, setbacks, landscaping, anything like that?
Mr. Green?
That is correct. There are only those changes to the minimum lot area and the minimum lot width that has changed as a result of that updated survey information. And that was a result of a posting plan adjacent to this property, which then required the surveyor for this property to submit a new posting for this property, and which then resulted in this applicant having to change the proposed plan of subdivision.
Thank you. And then my next question is, does the narrower lot create any challenges for emergency access?
So the proposed common property, i.e. the access driveway for these 4 lots, is below 6 metres, which is the cutoff for when our fire department require those buildings to be sprinkled, and that is the reason for this section 219 that would require the 4 buildings to be sprinkled at time of building permit, and we're recommending that this be dealt with through a section 219, so that at the time of building permit that covenant will be on title for the building department to know that there is a requirement for those 4 buildings to be sprinkled.
Thank you. Mr. Horvath, can I just get you to turn off your microphone? That's okay. Thank you. Just prevents any feedback loop from happening. Any other questions for staff or the applicant? Councillor Watson.
Yes, I do. Actually, it's about the sprinkling requirements and the driveway width, and I just wondered, sprinkling adds, I don't know proportionally, but it certainly adds cost to the project. And I wondered if the alternative of widening the driveway access was one of the things that was considered, if you could meet those fire requirements without having sprinkling, and if that was something that was ever discussed with the applicant or a possibility.
Mr. Green?
Through your worship to Councillor Watson, yes, that was a comment back to the applicant to say that the new plan of subdivision had a driveway with less than 6 metres, which was the requirement of our fire department, and as such the applicant had already agreed that the buildings would be happy to be sprinkling those buildings.
And so if I could also just can I direct a question to the applicant? Just so that I'm clear about that, were you actually able to consider widening the driveway as an alternative to sprinkling? Was that a design process that you actually you thought through that might have saved you the cost of sprinkling? Maybe it was 6 of one, half dozen of the other, I don't know.
Mr. Horvath?
Yes, we did look at widening the driveway. What ends up happening is the driveway width comes closer to the south property line. And there are a number of trees that we're planting and we're trying to salvage along that property line. So that's one reason we didn't want to do it. The second reason is it increases the impermeable paving. So I think we're at our limits right now with impermeable coverage. So that's another reason that we decided not to do it.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to understand that. Great.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions, and we don't have public input on this item, so I'll need someone to go through. There's a number of bylaws that have to be read into the record, so if we can start somewhere. Go ahead, Councillor.
Your Worship, I would move that Council rescind third reading of zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4937, 2025.
Seconded, thank you. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thanks. I actually went back and looked on this one because I remember it coming to council before, and I did vote in opposition of this based on what I felt was the neighborhood fit and density, and that rationale for me is really largely unchanged. I think you'll end up with a nice product, but I think that for me it's a little bit too much density for that neighborhood fit. So I'm probably going to end up voting against all of these, which seems weird to be voting against a rescind, and then so I might vote for the first 2, but then I'll be voting against the next ones. So thank you.
Understood. I always appreciate comments of voting against things. So we have a mover and a seconder for the motion to rescind. See no discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed.
Your Worship, I would move the council amend zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4937, 2025 by A, revising the minimum lot area in section 7.8.5, subsection 1 to 286 square meters. And B, revising the minimum lot width in section 7.8.5, subsection 3 to 5.5 meters.
Second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? Please continue.
I would move, Your Worship, the council give third reading to zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4937, 2025, as amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And those opposed? Councillor Braithwaite opposed. That carries.
Okay, this is a large one, Your Worship. I would move that council direct staff to work with the applicant on a covenant under section 219 of the Land Title Act, registered prior to adoption of zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4937, 2025, as a charge against title to all of the land in the proposed comprehensive development zone that secures A, the provision of an accessible washroom for the secondary suite on either strata lot 2, 3, or 4, and B, the provision of residential fire sprinkler systems for all units in the development in compliance with the BC Building Code, BC Fire Code, and Building and Plumbing Bylaw number 4247.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Councillor Braithwaite opposed. That carries. So this is not for adoption at this point. We'll come back for a future piece, if that's correct. Subject to. Okay, thank you. We then move to, good luck with the project, although we'll come back here for final adoption after all those things are done. We now move to sections, items 11.3 through 11.6. These are all related to the blasting regulation changes. Mr. Bowl, I'll let you provide the introduction for all four, and then I'll go through them procedurally.
Thank you, Your Worship. The new blasting and rock breaking bylaw represents the culmination of a review that began in 2020 in response to resident concerns regarding blasting activities in Oak Bay. Since that time, staff have completed technical review work and multiple rounds of public and industry consultation. And the proposed regulatory framework in the bylaws now seeks to balance community livability objectives with the practical and safety considerations raised throughout the process. As the bylaws implemented, staff will continue to monitor its effectiveness, and we would report back to council on any significant issues or recommended amendments that might emerge through experience of the new regulations. Today these four bylaws are in front of you for adoption, and that would introduce the new regime as of tomorrow. And we have done our preparations. We still have some to complete, but we're largely prepared for this change. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Bowl. Are there any questions on any of these before I get to the motions? Go ahead, Councillor Green. Go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite. Had questions? I think she was going to move.
Oh, I was going to make a motion.
I just had a really quick question. I noticed that it says one blasting permit every 12 months, and I'm wondering what happens if a project legitimately requires two blasting phases. Do we just have to grant an exemption in that case?
Mr. Bowl?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, there is an option to either extend the permit for certain reasons. That might be one option, and the other option for an extra permit, I'm not quite sure. But that might be through a council decision if the bylaw doesn't give staff that option. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Green?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Can I just, I need you to read it into the motion, to the record, please. So for 11.3.
Sorry.
I just
I'll
need you to
move
read.
that council adopt blasting and rock breaking bylaw number 4958, 2026.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed. That carries. Can you just continue on, Councillor Braithwaite, if you have it handy? For 11.4?
For 11.4, yeah, I'll move that council adopt anti-noise bylaw number 3210, 1977, amendment bylaw number 4960, 2026.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion on adoption? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed.
And I'll move that council adopt building and plumbing bylaw number 4247, 2005, amendment bylaw number 4959, 2026.
Moved and seconded, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed, none opposed? And 11.6,
I'll move that council adopt planning, building, and development fees and charges bylaw number 4845, 2023, amendment bylaw number 4961, 2026, blasting.
moved and seconded, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed, none opposed? Is there any new business or notices of motions? Not seeing any. We will see you all here in September. So have a great August. And hopefully there's no emergency meetings before that. We move now to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Move seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed, none opposed? So 9:29 and 59 seconds. We just squeezed under the 9:30 barrier. Thank you, everyone.